The first thing I felt was pain in bones that had not been broken yet. It came back with such precision that I woke choking on a scream, both arms locked against my chest. For several seconds I could hear the wet crack of a lacrosse shaft against my left ulna, then the second blow against my right wrist, then Tyler Briggs laughing because I had tried to protect my hands, but my hands were whole, they were lying on a calculus workbook, one curled around a yellow highlighter and the other resting beside my laptop, 10 unpainted fingernails, a faint burn scar on my thumb from soldering a circuit board in 10th grade, no surgical seams, no tremor, no permanent weakness on the laptop screen. The clock read 1:17 a.m., Thursday, April 11, 2 days before the Harrington Fellowship exam. My phone lit up beside me. Liam, you awake? Ava says we should do one last run through Friday night. West Lot, 8:30. I can drive you home after. The message was exactly the same. In my first life, I had read it as proof that my boyfriend believed in me. Liam Cole had spent 6 months telling me that I was the smartest person at Jefferson Academy and 3 months persuading me that being loved by him meant I no longer had to be suspicious of anyone. When he said Ava Sinclair wanted to apologize for the rumors she had spread about my scholarship application, I had gone to the west parking lot with my prototype in my backpack and hope embarrassing my heart. Ava never appeared. Tyler Briggs and 2 other lacrosse players stepped from behind the maintenance building instead. Liam held my backpack. Tyler held a shortened composite stick wrapped in black athletic tape. They did not rob me, they did not touch my face, they pinned me against the hood of Liam's car and broke the parts of me I needed for the exam. I had heard Tyler ask, both, and Liam had answered, she can type one-handed. Ava said both. At 18, I still believed there had to be a misunderstanding until the second bone snapped. The Harrington Future Engineers Fellowship paid 4 years of tuition, housing, books, and laboratory costs at any accredited university in the United States. Its final stage required a 3-hour written engineering analysis and a live defense of an original project. Jefferson Academy, a public magnet school in Fairfax County, Virginia, could nominate one senior. I had designed RescueLink, a low-cost mesh communication system that could reconnect neighborhoods after hurricanes and wildfires. Disabled cell towers. Ava had designed a glossy slide deck about smart resilience hubs that could not survive 10 minutes without a wall outlet. After the attack, I spent exam morning in surgery. Ava became Jefferson's nominee. The school called my assault an unverified off-campus altercation, although it occurred on school property. The West Lot cameras had supposedly malfunctioned. Liam said we had broken up 2 weeks earlier and that he had not seen me that night. Tyler's father produced footage from a restaurant 40 miles away, time-stamped badly enough that anyone who cared could have questioned it. No one powerful cared. 7 years later, I found the evidence by accident. A former teammate of Tyler's, drunk and terrified after Ava's father abandoned him in another scandal, sent me screenshots from a group chat. Ava had transferred Tyler $5,000 through a Booster Club shell account. She had promised the other 2 boys recommendations to college coaches. Liam had supplied my schedule, my password, and the instruction that mattered most, hands, not face. She needs to look like she could have shown up. By then Ava was the celebrated founder of a disaster technology company built around ideas taken from my stolen lab notebooks. Liam was its general counsel and her fiancé. My nerve damage made detailed electronics work nearly impossible. I repaired appliances in the back of a strip mall shop and spent nights assembling a case no reporter wanted to touch. When I finally found one who did, Ava asked to meet. Her SUV crossed the center line on Georgetown Pike before I reached the cafe. The police called it a rain-slicked road tragedy. As I bled beneath a crushed dashboard, I saw Ava standing beyond the emergency lights in a cream coat, one hand pressed elegantly to her mouth. Liam stood beside her. She lowered her hand just long enough to smile. Then I opened my eyes. At 18, with 2 unbroken arms and Liam's invitation glowing on my phone, I did not scream again. I took a screenshot. Then I opened a new encrypted folder and named it Hands. At 7 the next morning, my mother was making scrambled eggs in our narrow townhouse kitchen. Dana Ellis had spent 12 years as a paralegal at a legal aid office, which meant she could make a grocery budget surrender and detect a lie before it finished putting on shoes. She looked at me once and turned off the burner. Who hurt you? In my first life, I had hidden everything from her. We were one missed paycheck away from trouble, and I thought protecting her meant solving every problem alone. After my surgeries, she took a second job, sold the townhouse, and blamed herself until the day she died. This time I walked around the counter and held her. She stiffened. Nora, I need you to believe something before I can explain all of it. That is an alarming opening sentence. Liam is helping Ava sabotage the fellowship. I have messages suggesting they may try to threaten or hurt me. Before the exam, her face changed without becoming dramatic. That was my mother. Fear made her precise. Show me. I showed her Liam's invitation, older texts asking whether I could write with my non-dominant hand, and an anonymous message I had received 3 days earlier. Withdraw before someone does it for you. In my first life I had deleted that message because I did not want to appear weak. Now it sat preserved with metadata in 3 places. Mom read everything twice. You are not meeting him, not alone, not at all. If I refuse, they will change the plan. Maybe they plant drugs in my locker, maybe they corrupt my files, maybe they wait until after the exam. I know what they want, when they want it, and where they expect me. That is the only advantage I have. She stared at me. How do you know? The truth pressed against my teeth. I could not tell a woman who loved evidence that I remembered dying 7 years from now. So I gave her the portion she could use. Ava has been using Liam to access my work. I found remote login records. Yesterday Tyler asked a teammate where the Westlot blind spots were, and Liam sent this. All true. I had not noticed the login records the first time until months later. I knew where to look now. Mom's eyes hardened at the word blind spots. We report it. Yes. Her surprise almost made me smile. We report everything, I continued, to the school resource officer, to Principal Garrison, to the fellowship, and to someone outside the school. In writing, we make it impossible for them to say they knew nothing. And Friday night, we decide after we know who is willing to protect me. She took my phone, set it face down, and clasped both my hands. Your future is not worth your body. I remembered 7 years of dropping screwdrivers because my fingers would not close. I know exactly what my body is worth. At 8:15, we walked into Jefferson Academy together. The school occupied a glass and brick campus in Vienna, all clean angles, donor plaques, and banners promising that excellence belonged to everyone. The largest building was the Sinclair Innovation Center. Ava's father had paid for its robotics lab, its atrium, and, according to a joke teachers made only behind closed doors, half of Principal Garrison's spine. School resource officer Elena Ruiz met us in a conference room near the front office. She wore a Fairfax County Police uniform and listened without interrupting. Principal Garrison arrived 6 minutes late with Vice Principal Klein and an expression of courteous irritation. These are serious interpretations, Garrison said when I finished. Teenagers sometimes communicate clumsily under stress. Officer Ruiz turned her head. A threat to make someone withdraw is not clumsy. We do not know who sent it. That is why I am documenting it. Garrison smiled at my mother. Mrs. Ellis, surely we can handle this internally before criminalizing students over speculation. Mom laid a legal pad on the table. My name is M.S. Ellis, and you are welcome to put that recommendation in writing. He did not. I asked for 4 things: preservation of all security footage from Wednesday through Saturday, a no-contact directive covering Ava, Liam, Tyler, Mason Reed, and Connor Hale, confirmation that no one could withdraw my fellowship application without an in-person meeting and verified signature, and an escort to my car after school. Garrison objected to every request until Officer Ruiz said, "They are reasonable." Klein took notes, though his pen barely touched the paper. Officer Ruiz gave me a case number and her card. Do not meet anyone to collect evidence. If you believe you are in danger, call 911. Documentation is useful. Staying alive and uninjured is more useful. Understood. I meant it when I said it. I also understood something she did not. In my first life, the people across from me had erased security footage, altered attendance records, and convinced 3 institutions that my shattered arms were an inconvenient coincidence. A warning would not stop them. It would only force them to become more careful. My job was not to invite an attack. My job was to make every choice they made from this moment irreversible. When the meeting ended, Garrison asked me to remain. Nora, the Harrington Foundation values judgment as much as technical ability. Public allegations 2 days before the exam may reflect poorly on all our candidates. There was only one candidate, me. Are you saying reporting a threat could cost me the nomination? His gaze flickered toward my mother's legal pad. Of course not. Thank you. Please email that to me. Mom coughed into her fist to hide a laugh. Outside the office, Ava Sinclair was waiting beneath a banner with her own face on it. She was homecoming queen, student council president, and the kind of blonde photographers called luminous because they were paid not to say expensive. A white ribbon was tied around her ponytail. Her navy blazer carried 6 honor pins, 2 of which belonged to committees she had attended once. Nora, she widened her blue eyes. I heard there was some misunderstanding. News travels fast from a confidential meeting. Her smile held. Liam was worried. He said you seemed paranoid. On the other side of the atrium, Liam leaned against a trophy case. He gave me the tender, concerned look that had once made me feel chosen. I looked back at Ava. Then he should be relieved I'm documenting everything. For one instant, the warmth vanished from her face, then she touched my forearm. My skin remembered the stick. We all want the best candidate representing Jefferson, she said softly. Sometimes ambition makes people imagine enemies. I covered her hand with mine and smiled. You're right, by Saturday, nobody will have to imagine anything. My first move was to make my work useless to steal. Rescue Link had begun as a science fair project after a hurricane stranded my aunt in Puerto Rico without reliable communication. Each node was built from inexpensive off-the-shelf components, powered by a foldable solar panel, and able to create a local text network even when cell towers failed. The clever part was not the hardware, it was my routing protocol, which prioritized emergency messages without allowing a single compromised node to control the network. Ava had copied an early schematic from my cloud drive. Liam had watched me type my password at a coffee shop, then logged in from his home. I found the session history now because I knew the date and device. At lunch I went to the computer lab, changed every credential, enabled hardware key authentication, and exported the logs. I deposited a sealed copy of my source code and engineering notebook with the fellowship's independent administrator, Dr. Simone Brooks, through the secure applicant portal. Then I called her office. Jefferson already certified your project last month, Dr. Brooks said. Her voice was calm and brisk. Why the additional deposit? I have reason to believe someone may attempt to alter, copy, or withdraw my materials. Silence. Have you notified your school? This morning, I have a police incident number. The word police changed the temperature of the call. Dr. Brooks asked for the number, then explained the Foundation's candidate protection process. Any withdrawal would require a live video conference with her and a parent or guardian. My examination registration could not be reassigned after noon Friday, if I became temporarily disabled. Their accommodation policy allowed dictation, a trained scribe, assistive technology, and extended transition time, provided I could still supply all substantive answers myself. My throat tightened. In my first life, Principal Garrison had told my mother there were no emergency accommodations. He said the rules were regrettably strict. She had believed him because the exam began while I was under anesthesia. Could you email me that policy? I asked. Already sent. Nora, do you expect to be injured? There were honest answers that sounded insane. I have been threatened in a way that focused on whether I could complete a written exam. Then my professional advice is to stay home and let law enforcement handle it. If something happens despite that, I need to know my work doesn't disappear with my handwriting. Her voice softened. It won't. My second move was to create an original version of my project that Ava could not fake. The stolen schematic contained a flaw I had corrected 3 weeks earlier. Under heavy message traffic, its battery controller overheated and throttled the node. I had never uploaded the corrected layout. It existed only in a paper notebook locked in my desk and in the sealed deposit I had just sent to Dr. Brooks. I opened the old files and added comments that sounded helpful but preserved the flaw. Then I created a folder called Final_Harrington and left it on my desktop. It was bait, but not fraudulent bait. Every file was genuinely mine. Every timestamp predated Ava's access. If she took it, she would be stealing an obsolete draft whose failure she could not explain. At the end of lunch, Liam slid into the chair beside me. You changed your password. He said it before he remembered he was not supposed to know. I turned slowly. How would you know? His face recovered in less than a second. He was already good enough at lying to become a lawyer. Your tablet asked you to sign in during chemistry. I saw, across 2 lab tables. Nora, come on. He reached for my hand. I'm worried about you. Ava told me you accused Tyler of planning something violent. I reported a threat. Tyler is an idiot, but he's not dangerous. In my first life, Liam had washed my blood from his car before visiting me in the hospital. I let him hold my hand. Maybe I'm overreacting. Relief loosened his mouth. I barely slept. I continued. I panicked and deleted half my backups. I even told the Foundation I might withdraw. His thumbs stopped moving over my knuckles. You did. I don't know. Maybe Ava is right. Maybe I'm not built for this. Don't decide yet. Too quickly. Too eagerly. Come Friday, we can all talk. West Lot, 8:30. Okay. He kissed my forehead as if rewarding good behavior. When he left, I wiped the place his mouth had touched. My phone, recording inside my blazer pocket, had captured every word. By Thursday evening, 5 separate systems were watching the trap. Officer Ruiz had my formal report. Dr. Brooks had my protected application and accommodation request. My mother's supervising attorney, Miriam Shaw, had copies of every message and login record. Our townhouse security camera now uploaded to an account no one but Mom controlled. My phone shared its location continuously with Mom, Miriam, and my uncle Daniel, a paramedic working the Friday night shift. The west parking lot was more difficult. Principal Garrison rejected my request to inspect the camera coverage, citing student security. That told me the cameras were either vulnerable or already scheduled to fail, so Mom parked her aging Subaru legally on the public access lane facing the lot. A dash camera recorded front and rear, backed up through a cellular hotspot. Daniel loaned us 2 weatherproof trail cameras from his hunting gear. We mounted one inside the Subaru and one on private property across the lane with the owner's written permission. None of that made walking into an ambush wise. I knew, Mom knew. We argued until midnight. Evidence is not worth a compound fracture, she said. If I don't go, they do something else. Then we stopped the something else. How? Garrison already warned me that reporting a threat could make me look unstable. Liam accessed my account, but the school will call it a shared password between teenagers. Tyler searched for blind spots, but he can say it was for smoking. Ava's father owns the narrative before anything happens. You're talking like being attacked is a legal strategy. I'm talking like they attacked me once and got everything they wanted. The words came out before I could stop them. Mom went still. Once, I looked down at my hands. I had planned to carry the impossible alone. That was another habit from my first life, and suddenly I was tired of dying from it. I remember things, I said, not guesses, memories. Friday night, the hospital, 7 years after that. I remember you selling this house. I remember losing you. I remember dying. She stared at me for a long time. Then she asked, what did I say when you woke after your second surgery? I closed my eyes. You said, I should have known. I told you there was nothing to know. You said mothers are supposed to know anyway. Her chair scraped back. For one terrible moment, I thought she was leaving. Instead she knelt beside me and put her forehead against my unbroken right hand. I dreamed that sentence last week, she whispered. I have never said it. We cried without elegance. When we were done, she did not ask me to prove the universe. She asked what happened, and I told her enough to make her understand why ordinary caution felt like surrender. She still refused to let me walk into the lot unprotected. At 7 Friday morning, Daniel met us at a sports medicine clinic in Arlington. A physician examined me, documented my healthy arms, and fitted slim carbon fiber forearm guards beneath a loose Jefferson sweatshirt. They were designed for extreme sports, not assault. They would distribute force, not make bone unbreakable. Over them I wore wrist braces and told anyone who asked that I had aggravated an old climbing injury. Miriam helped us set a dead man message. If I did not cancel it by 8:38 p.m., it would send the live stream link, location, and evidence summary to Officer Ruiz, County Dispatch, Dr. Brooks, and 2 local reporters. My watch could trigger 911 with a concealed press. Mom and Daniel would be less than a minute away in separate cars. This is the last point at which I tell you not to do it, Miriam said. Noted, if they arrive armed, you leave. If they try to move you, you run. If you lose the ability to run, you trigger the alert. You are collecting evidence of choices they already planned. You do not provoke, threaten, or touch anyone. Understood? She studied me over her glasses. Revenge makes people believe pain is proof of courage. It isn't. I don't need to be hurt. Good, I need them to try. Mom flinched, but Miriam nodded once. Then make sure the world sees the difference. Friday moved like a blade being drawn slowly from a sheath. Ava spent the morning performing concern. She brought me a blueberry muffin, asked whether my wrists were feeling better, and announced to 3 people in the hallway that competition should never come before friendship. Liam hovered beside her, watching every door I entered. Tyler and his teammates did not look at me at all. At noon, Dr. Brooks emailed confirmation that my registration was locked. Jefferson could not substitute another nominee. Even if I withdrew, the fellowship would simply evaluate no one from our school that mattered. In my first life, Garrison had transferred the nomination to Ava at 9:04 Saturday morning. This time, the prize she expected could not fall into her lap merely because I vanished. At 12:07, Ava received a message. I watched her read it in the cafeteria. Her gaze snapped to me, then to Liam. The smile she gave him could have cut glass. Liam cornered me between physics and government. What did you do to the registration? I confirmed it. You said you might withdraw. I changed my mind. Without talking to me, I almost admired the entitlement. It is my scholarship. Everything doesn't have to be a fight. Nora, then stop fighting me for things with my name on them." His face tightened. For a moment I saw the man he would become, the attorney who would stand beside Ava at my funeral and tell reporters she was devastated. Then he lowered his voice. "Come tonight, please. Ava has a way to fix this." I said I would. "Bring the RescueLink files." "Why?" "She wants to compare your project with hers, to prove she hasn't copied anything." I looked wounded, exactly as he expected. "You told her I thought that. You told the police." "I never mentioned the project to Officer Ruiz." He stepped back. There it was, a clean little admission that information had moved from a supposedly confidential school meeting to Ava, then from Ava to him. 8:30, I said. "I'll bring everything." At 7:52 p.m., I left home wearing the carbon guards, my recording phone, my emergency watch, and a small backpack containing the old schematic on an encrypted drive. Mom watched from the doorway as if she wanted to memorize a version of me with straight bones. "You come back," she said. "I will." "That is not confidence, it is an instruction." "Yes, ma'am." The west lot sat behind the football field, separated from the main buildings by a strip of woods and the low concrete maintenance building. Friday activities had ended. Rain threatened but had not begun. The overhead lamps left islands of white light with darkness between them. Liam waited beside his silver Honda at 8:24. "You came." He sounded surprised. "You asked." He hugged me, his hand moved over my back, checking the shape of the backpack. I forced myself not to recoil. "Where's Ava?" "Running late, of course." He tried to laugh. The sound died when Tyler Briggs emerged from behind the maintenance building. Mason Reed and Connor Hale followed him. They were all 18, in school photographs they looked polished and harmless, 3 athletes with broad shoulders, clean haircuts, and early decision college sweatshirts. In the dim lot, they looked exactly like what they had chosen to become. Tyler carried the same shortened lacrosse shaft, black tape, gray composite, a white scrape near the head. My body remembered before my mind could command it. My pulse roared. The scar that did not yet exist seemed to split open along my left arm. I pressed my thumb twice against my watch. "Liam," I said, allowing the fear into my voice. "What is this?" He moved behind me. "Just give us the drive," Tyler said. "Us? Don't make it complicated. Ava paid you $5,000 and didn't even bother to come." Mason looked at Tyler. Connor swore under his breath. Tyler's mouth twisted. "She'll pay the other half when you miss tomorrow." Liam hissed. "Shut up." I took one step backward. 10,000. For stealing a flash drive. The drive isn't the job. Tyler slapped the stick against his palm. "You know that." "What is the job, Nora?" Liam warned. I looked at him. "You said Tyler wasn't dangerous. Give me the bag, and nobody has to get hurt." "But Ava said I do." His expression told me I was right. Behind them, headlights swept across the access road and disappeared. Mom, circling. "Not yet." We had agreed she would not enter unless I triggered the full alarm or the men tried to move me. I let my shoulders shake. "Why my arms?" Tyler gave a short, ugly laugh. "Because Sinclair wants you alive and awake for the pictures tomorrow. She said your face stays pretty, your legs still work, and both hands stop." The sentence landed in the night like a signed confession. Liam grabbed for my backpack. I twisted away and shouted, "Don't touch me." That shout mattered. The law does not require a victim to perform perfect resistance, but cameras understand clear moments. I gave the cameras one. Connor caught the backpack strap. It tore free. Mason seized my left shoulder. I drove my heel down on his instep and ran toward the pool of light beneath the nearest lamp. Tyler swung. The shaft struck my right forearm. Carbon fiber spread the force, but pain detonated from wrist to elbow. I stayed upright. He stared, startled that I had not folded. I could have reached the access lane then. I could see Daniel's ambulance service jacket through a windshield. I could hear a siren far beyond the football field. Then Liam lunged and caught my sweatshirt hood. I fell backward. My head missed the pavement by inches. Mason pinned my right shoulder with his knee. Connor clamped both hands around my ankle. "Do it," Liam shouted. Tyler raised the stick with both hands. In my first life, I had begged. This time I looked straight at him. "Ava will abandon you before the police finish reading your rights." His face flooded red. The stick came down across my left arm. The guard absorbed part of it. Not enough. The crack was quieter than I remembered. The pain was not. For a second the sky went white. My watch began speaking through its tiny speaker. "Emergency services have been notified." Everyone froze. Then the west lot filled with sound. Sirens rose from 2 directions. Mom's Subaru shot into the entrance, horn blaring. Daniel's truck stopped across the exit. Officer Ruiz's cruiser came over the curb behind it. followed by 2 patrol cars. Connor released my ankle and ran. He made it 12 yards. Mason rolled away from me and put both hands in the air. Liam stared at my watch, then at the Subaru's dash camera, then at the tiny red light blinking from the fence across the lane. He understood before Tyler did. "You set us up," he whispered. I cradled my left arm against my chest. "I asked you not to touch me." Tyler dropped the stick. Officer Ruiz came through the light with her weapon drawn. "On the ground, all of you, now." Tyler looked toward the woods. "Don't," I said. He ran anyway. Ruiz tackled him at the edge of the asphalt. 2 officers caught Connor near the football gate. Mason lay face down, sobbing that he had never hit anyone. Liam remained on his knees beside his car, hands raised, his perfect debate team voice gone. "Nora," he said, "tell them this got out of control. My mother reached me. She dropped beside me without touching the injured arm. It went exactly where you took it." I told him. Paramedics cut away my sweatshirt. The guards were split at one edge. Swelling rose beneath them. Daniel stayed back because he was family, while another medic assessed circulation and sensation. "Can you move your fingers?" I did, barely. "Good, keep doing that." Officer Ruiz knelt on my other side. "Did you hear me tell you not to come?" Very clearly. Anger and relief fought across her face. The alert reached dispatch at 8:29. Your live link followed 30 seconds later. We were already close because of the report. Did it record? Everything I heard did. She looked toward the 4 young men in handcuffs, and I heard enough, as the ambulance doors closed. Liam shouted my name. I did not look back. In my first life, he had watched me leave that lot without calling for help. This time he watched me leave while an officer photographed the blood on his hands. The X-rays showed a non-displaced fracture in my left ulna and a hairline fracture near my right wrist. Painful, limiting, expected to heal without surgery. In my first life, Tyler had displaced both fractures, shattered my right scaphoid, and damaged the ulnar nerve in my left arm. I had endured 4 operations. This time, the carbon guards had purchased me a future for the price of 2 casts. At 11:46 p.m., a nurse finished immobilizing my arms. Mom sat beside the hospital bed with her jaw clenched. Miriam stood near the window, taking notes while Officer Ruiz and a detective named Samir Patel recorded my statement. "They are all being held overnight," Detective Patel said. "Briggs, Reed, and Hale for malicious wounding, conspiracy, and abduction-related offenses subject to review. Cole for conspiracy, attempted theft, and his role in restraining you. The Commonwealth's attorney will determine final charges. Ava, we need evidence connecting her beyond what Briggs said in the lot." Miriam glanced at my phone. "We have more than his statement." We did. The live recording had captured Tyler naming Sinclair, the promised second payment, and Ava's instructions about my face, legs, and hands. Liam had confirmed the plan through conduct and several statements. The trail cameras showed the attack from 2 angles. The Subaru camera showed the men arriving together 20 minutes earlier and taking the lacrosse shaft from Liam's trunk, but Ava had never sent a message saying break Nora's arms. She was too careful for that. "She'll say Tyler invented it," I said. "Probably," Detective Patel agreed. "Then let her." At 12:08 a.m., my phone vibrated in its evidence bag. Dr. Brooks called Mom instead. The fellowship security system had blocked 3 attempts to access my applicant portal from an unrecognized device. 2 used my old password. The third used a reset code sent to Liam's school email because he had once been listed as my peer collaborator. At 12:14, another attempt arrived through Principal Garrison's administrative account. At 12:19, someone submitted an emergency request to replace Jefferson's nominee with Ava Sinclair. The registration lock rejected it automatically. Dr. Brooks preserved the logs and contacted the Foundation's counsel. I lay against the hospital pillow, both arms supported, and felt the first true note of satisfaction. The attack had failed, so Ava was making herself visible. "Do not announce that I'm taking the exam," I told Mom. She looked at my casts. "Are you?" "Yes." "Nora, the accommodation is approved. A scribe can record my answers." Dr. Brooks said the exam tests my reasoning, not my handwriting. Officer Ruiz stared at me as if I were a structural defect she could not calculate. "You were assaulted 2 hours ago. To keep me out of that room, that is not a medical reason to enter it. No, it is a reason not to let them decide." The emergency physician cleared me only after I promised to take prescribed pain medication that would not impair cognition and return immediately if swelling increased. Dr. Brooks moved my start time from 8 to 10 and arranged for an independent proctor and certified scribe. Mom agreed because forbidding me would have forced me to spend the morning fighting her. 2. At 1:03, Ava called. My phone was still in evidence. But the call displayed on Mom's screen because our family accounts were linked. A voicemail followed. Mom played it on speaker. Nora, I just heard. Oh my God, I can't believe Tyler would do something like that. Please call me. Liam said you were confused and accused us, but I know you're in shock. Whatever you think happened, I want to help. The school says the exam would be too much, so please don't pressure yourself. Your health comes first. Her voice trembled beautifully. At the end, she forgot to hang up at once. For 2 seconds we heard another voice in the background, male, older. Did Brooks accept the substitution? Ava whispered. No, Garrison is trying again. The voicemail ended. Detective Patel held out his hand for Mom's phone. May I? I smiled for the first time that night. Please. At 9:42 Saturday morning, Ava Sinclair stood in Jefferson Academy's atrium beneath a banner that read Harrington Fellowship finalist. Make US proud. The banner had been printed overnight. Her social media team was live streaming. She wore a white suit, pearl earrings, and a navy blouse chosen to match the school's colors. Principal Garrison stood at her left. Her father, Charles Sinclair, stood at her right with one hand on her shoulder. Reporters from the student paper and a local lifestyle site waited near the entrance. The final examination room was visible through the glass wall behind them. Ava had no legal registration, but she had dressed for coronation. I watched the live stream from Mom's passenger seat while she parked in the accessible space outside the atrium. My left arm rested in a rigid cast from wrist to elbow. My right wrist was braced. Purple bruises marked my shoulder and throat where Liam had pulled my hood. I wore a simple black dress, flat shoes, and no makeup. Miriam adjusted the sling. Still want the front entrance, especially the front entrance. Dr. Brooks met us at the curb with the independent proctor, a certified educational scribe, and the foundation's attorney. Officer Ruiz stood just inside the doors. She had told Garrison she was there for security. She did not mention that Detective Patel was executing preservation orders for school servers while everyone watched the spectacle downstairs. The glass doors opened. Ava was answering a reporter's question. Jefferson taught me that leadership means stepping forward when circumstances change, she said. I never wanted to benefit from another student's tragedy, but I am ready to honor our community. She saw me. The rest of the sentence dissolved. Every phone turned. My shoes clicked across the tile. Dr. Brooks walked on my right, Mom on my left. The atrium became so quiet I could hear the fountain near the donor wall. Principal Garrison recovered first. Nora, you should be resting. My physician cleared me. The fellowship assessment cannot be modified at the last minute. Dr. Brooks stepped forward. It has not been modified. Ms. Ellis will receive temporary disability accommodations under Section 7 of the Foundation's published testing policy. Garrison's face reddened. Jefferson nominated a replacement due to incapacity. Jefferson attempted to access our administrative system 4 times after registration closed. Dr. Brooks said, the attempts have been preserved. There is no replacement. Charles Sinclair removed his hand from his daughter's shoulder. Simone, surely we can discuss the best outcome for the Foundation privately. Dr. Brooks looked at the cameras, then back at him. Mr. Sinclair, I do not discuss exam integrity privately with donors. A small sound traveled through the crowd, not laughter, something sharper. Ava came toward me. Nora, you don't have to prove anything. Nobody would blame you for going home. You would. Her eyes filled on command. How can you say that after what happened? Which part? She stopped. The part where Tyler said you paid him, the part where Liam held me down, or the part where someone used Principal Garrison's account to replace my registration while I was getting x-rays. The live stream phones lifted higher. Charles Sinclair said, this is neither the time nor the place for defamatory accusations. Officer Ruiz moved beside him. It's also not the time to contact a represented victim. Mr. Sinclair. Miriam handed him a card. Now you know where to direct correspondence. Ava's gaze dropped to my casts. I saw the calculation behind her concern. She was asking herself whether I could endure 3 hours, whether pain medication had clouded me, whether the scribe would slow my answers, whether the old files Liam had accessed were enough for her to outperform me if she somehow gained entry. She still believed the exam was the battlefield. She did not understand that she had already lost the war. I passed beneath the fellowship banner. Someone had covered my printed name with a strip of white paper and written AVA Sinclair in gold marker. I stopped. With the edge of my right brace, I caught the paper and peeled it away. Nora Ellis appeared underneath. You missed a layer, I told her. Then I walked into the examination room. The first question described a coastal county whose communications failed during a Category 4 hurricane. We had to identify 3 network vulnerabilities. propose a resilient architecture, calculate an energy budget, and defend the ethical choices involved in prioritizing emergency traffic. The prompt might as well have been written for Rescue Link. My scribe was a retired special education teacher named Mrs. Alvarez. Before the clock began, she read the rules aloud. She could enter only the words, equations, and punctuation I dictated. She could not prompt, define, calculate, or correct content. A camera recorded the screen and both our faces. Dr. Brooks and the proctor observed behind us. Ready, Mrs. Alvarez asked. Pain throbbed beneath my left cast through the glass. I could see Ava pacing in the atrium. Ready, I began with the failure assumptions. At first I dictated too quickly. Mrs. Alvarez lifted one finger, and I slowed. Once I found the rhythm, the injury receded. I described solar-powered mesh nodes deployed on schools, fire stations, libraries, and mobile response vehicles. I calculated load under normal and surge traffic. I explained why a network that prioritized messages based only on user identity would disadvantage undocumented residents, tourists, and people without pre-registered devices. My protocol prioritized message content and verified local emergency conditions instead. The second question required debugging a routing algorithm. The code contained the same single-node trust flaw I had solved in Rescue Link. I spoke the correction line by line. At the 90-minute break, Mom helped me drink water through a straw. Ava approached the glass, but Officer Ruiz blocked her. She held up her phone. A message appeared on mine from an unknown number. Stop lying. Tyler acted alone. If you keep dragging AVA into this, everyone will know. You plan to get hurt. I showed it to Miriam. Witness intimidation, she said, or an attempt. She forwarded it to Detective Patel. The second half of the exam was harder. Pain made my thoughts feel wrapped in wool. My right finger swelled inside the brace. The final calculation sprawled across 3 screens because every symbol had to be spoken. Open parenthesis. I dictated. P sub reserve divided by ETA sub conversion, close parenthesis, multiplied by, wait, delete from divided, Mrs. Alvarez deleted. I reconstructed the equation aloud. Outside, the banner came down. At 1:36 p.m., I dictated the final period. Mrs. Alvarez read back my closing paragraph. I corrected one word. The proctor stopped the clock. Dr. Brooks looked at me over the laptop. All substantive work was independently supplied by the candidate. Accommodation compliance is certified. I exhaled. Through the glass, Ava stood with both hands at her sides, had completed what 4 people committed felonies to prevent. And she had been forced to watch every minute. The live defense began at 3. The Foundation normally conducted it before a panel of 5 engineers in Jefferson's auditorium. After the morning's chaos, Dr. Brooks moved the proceeding to the County Education Center and barred school employees from handling equipment or credentials. Ava arrived anyway. She sat in the public gallery between her parents. Charles Sinclair had changed from fatherly concern to controlled outrage. His attorney sat 1 row behind him. Principal Garrison was absent. My presentation had no dramatic animations. Rescue Link was designed for places where electricity, bandwidth, and patience were scarce, so my slides were simple: the problem, the architecture, the field tests, the failures, the correction, the cost. I stood behind the lectern with my left arm in a sling and advanced the slides using a large accessibility switch beneath my right palm. In an emergency, I told the panel, a communication system should not require people to be wealthy, technically fluent, or already registered to ask for help. Rescue Link creates a temporary neighborhood network from components that cost less than a mid-range smartphone. It is not meant to replace first responders. It is meant to keep people visible until ordinary infrastructure returns. Professor Henry Cho, an electrical engineer from Virginia Tech, asked the first question. Your field test results show severe throttling in prototype version 3. What caused it? In the gallery, Ava straightened. That flaw was in the files Liam had stolen, a battery controller bottleneck under simultaneous transmission. I said, version 3 treated power management as a local device problem when it was actually a network behavior problem. I redesigned the board and changed the routing protocols so burst traffic distributes across nodes with the highest reserve capacity. Why isn't the revised board in your submitted digital appendix? It is in the sealed authorship deposit submitted Thursday at 12:18 p.m. Dr. Brooks has permission to release it to the panel. She did. The corrected schematic appeared on the screen with its timestamp, version history, and the scanned page from my bound laboratory notebook. Ava's face emptied. Professor Cho studied it. Elegant. 1 word. That was all. It struck Ava harder than any accusation I could have made. The next panelist asked about privacy. the third challenged my cost estimate, the fourth wanted to know how nodes would resist malicious takeover. I answered for 42 minutes, when I did not know the exact failure rate of a component under saltwater exposure. I said so and proposed a test. Honesty felt powerful after spending 2 days among people who treated truth as a weakness. Then Dr. Celeste Morgan, the panel chair, folded her hands. Ms. Ellis, one part of the fellowship criteria is judgment. You chose to sit this exam within hours of a serious assault. Some might call that determination, others might call it poor risk assessment. Which is it? The room tightened. Charles Sinclair leaned back, almost smiling. I had prepared for engineering questions. I had not prepared for someone to put the moral flaw in my plan under a white light, so I answered without hiding. Both. Dr. Morgan raised an eyebrow. I took precautions. I continued. I reported threats, preserved evidence, arranged emergency support, wore protective equipment, and activated police response. I did not cause anyone to attack me, but I did walk into a place I believed they might, that exposed me and the people who came to protect me to danger. I would not advise another student to do it. Why did you? Because the institutions around me had already begun treating the threat as a public relations problem. I believed an attempted crime documented in real time was the only evidence that could survive pressure. That belief was shaped by fear and by evidence. It was still a risk. Do you regret it? I looked at Mom in the front row. I regret that I thought I had to. I do not regret protecting my work, taking this exam, or making sure the people who hurt me cannot do it quietly. Dr. Morgan held my gaze for several seconds. Thank you. Afterward, while the panel deliberated, Ava caught me near the elevators. Officer Ruiz had been called downstairs. Mom was speaking with Dr. Brooks 10 feet away. Ava chose the narrow space between a vending machine and the wall, where the cameras would see our profiles but not easily capture whispers. You think this makes you a hero? She asked. The tremble had vanished from her voice. No, you knew they would be there. I knew Liam wanted me there. You wore armor, sports guards. You wanted Tyler to hit you. I leaned closer. I wanted him to make his own decision where the world could see it. That's entrapment. I'm not law enforcement, and I didn't ask him to commit a crime. For the first time, Ava looked 18, not luminous, not inevitable, just frightened and furious. Tyler lies, she said. He will say anything to save himself. Then it's unfortunate Liam kept your voice messages. Her pupils widened. It was a bluff, or mostly one. I knew from my first life that Ava preferred disappearing audio messages. Whether Liam had preserved them now was uncertain. Liam would never turn on me. He asked me from the patrol car to say things got out of control. He did not ask whether you were safe. Ava's lips parted. There are people who build loyalty through love, and people who build it through shared guilt. The second kind always mistake fear for devotion. Enjoy the gallery, I said. You may not be allowed in public buildings unsupervised for a while. She grabbed my sling. Pain shot through my shoulder. Mom crossed the space before I could move. Take your hand off my daughter. Every nearby phone lifted. Ava released me. She threatened me. Ava said loudly. Wonderful, Mom replied. Let's all watch the camera footage together. Ava left with her parents at 5:12 p.m. The panel returned. Dr. Morgan did not announce a winner. The fellowship's rules required a 48-hour integrity review. She did announce that I had achieved the highest written analysis score in the program's 12-year history. Someone in the gallery applauded, then another person. I looked at the empty seats where Ava's family had been and let the sound wash over me. My arms hurt. My plan had not made me invincible. Nothing about the last 24 hours was clean or painless. But the thing they had tried to beat out of me was still mine. Tyler Briggs lasted 14 hours in juvenile fantasy and 23 minutes in adult reality. All 4 defendants were 18, so there was no sealed school process to shelter them. They were booked into the Fairfax County Adult Detention Center. At his first consultation, Tyler learned that I only did it because someone paid me was not a defense to malicious wounding. At his bond hearing, the prosecutor played 12 seconds of the recording. She wants you alive and awake for the pictures tomorrow. Bond was denied. By Sunday afternoon, Tyler's lawyer requested a meeting. He offered his phone, banking records, and full cooperation in exchange for consideration at sentencing. The phone gave Detective Patel what my bluff had promised. Ava used an encrypted messaging app with disappearing messages. But Tyler had photographed several with another phone because he did not trust her to pay. The pictures showed a conversation from Tuesday. AVA, no head, no knees. I need her capable of attending but incapable of completing anything. Tyler, both arms is hospital. AVA, then she should have withdrawn when I gave her the chance. AVA, $5 now, $5 after Brooke certifies me. The 5 meant 5,000. Tyler's bank account showed a transfer from Capital Youth Athletics, a nonprofit controlled by Charles Sinclair's business manager. Mason and Connor had each been promised $2,000 in help with athletic recruitment. There was more. Liam had sent Tyler a map of the West Lot, marked with the expected range of the school cameras. He had written that Klein would handle footage between 9 and 10 Friday night. Another message contained my old portal password. A voice memo from Ava said, "If Nora signs nothing, Garrison can certify incapacity. My father already discussed it with him." Shared guilt became panic. Mason's family hired a separate lawyer and surrendered his phone. Connor's did the same. Each device added a piece, Ava assigning roles, Liam confirming I would carry the drive, Tyler complaining about the fee, Klein warning them not to use the main school entrance. Liam held out until Detective Patel obtained a warrant for his cloud backups, then he asked to speak to me. No, I told Miriam. He says he wants to apologize. He wants to measure what I know. Probably, he can apologize to a recorder. He did. In a proffer interview with prosecutors, Liam claimed Ava had manipulated him. He said she told him I had plagiarized rescuing from her private research and that frightening me into withdrawing would restore justice. He admitted accessing my account but denied knowing Tyler would use enough force to break bones. The parking lot recording destroyed that lie, but his cloud account destroyed something else. Liam had saved Ava's disappearing voice messages, all of them. He labeled the folder insurance. One recording began with Ava laughing, "She'll go if you make it romantic. Tell her I want peace, once Tyler has the bag. Keep her against the car, he knows what to do," and Liam, "If you get sentimental, remember whose father is paying your Georgetown deposit." Another captured Charles Sinclair, no permanent facial injury, no sexual component, those create sympathetic headlines. An athletic altercation involving the arms can be framed as mutual. The final recording was made after my ambulance left, Ava said. "Why is she still registered?" Garrison answered. "Brooks locked the account, then unlock it. It doesn't work that way." Charles Sinclair's voice came next. "Richard, the Innovation Center did not purchase us." Uncertainty. No one spoke for several seconds, then Garrison said, "I'll use my administrator credentials." Detective Patel arrested Ava at 7:20 Monday morning. She had scheduled a school assembly for 8 to address the campaign of misinformation dividing our community. A stage stood ready in the gym. The student orchestra had been told to play as she entered. Instead, 2 detectives met her beside the donor wall. Someone filmed it from the second-floor balcony. Ava wore the same white ribbon she had worn Thursday, when Detective Patel told her she was under arrest for solicitation, conspiracy, attempted malicious wounding, computer-related offenses, and witness intimidation subject to formal charging. She laughed. "My father is Charles Sinclair. I know who your father is. You cannot handcuff me at school." "Turn around." Her mother began screaming. Charles demanded the detectives' badge numbers. Students gathered along the stairs. Teachers tried and failed to clear the atrium. Ava looked up and saw me outside the counseling office, had returned only to collect assignments and meet the district's crisis coordinator. My arms were still immobilized. Mom stood beside me. Officer Ruiz stood between us and the crowd. For a heartbeat, Ava and I faced each other across the floor bearing her family's name. Then Patel fastened the cuffs. The sound was almost too small to hear. I heard it anyway. In my first life, she had smiled over the wreckage of my body because she believed consequences were things that happened to people without money. This time, she learned that steel sounded the same around every wrist. Jefferson Academy closed for 2 days. The official reason was operational review. The real reason was that the district superintendent had seized servers, suspended Principal Garrison and Vice Principal Klein, and discovered that the school did not know which of its records could still be trusted. The Westlot cameras had not malfunctioned. At 7:58 Friday evening, Klein logged into the security office remotely and disabled archival upload for 3 cameras. At 9:06, after police had already secured the scene, he deleted local footage. He did not know the district's vendor retained a diagnostic mirror for 72 hours. The recovered video showed Liam unlocking his trunk, Tyler taking out the lacrosse shaft, and Klein's sedan driving past the lot 5 minutes before I arrived. Klein resigned through counsel. The district declined to accept the resignation and terminated him after a hearing. Prosecutors charged him with obstruction and evidence tampering. Garrison was placed on unpaid administrative leave pending criminal and licensing investigations. Charles Sinclair was arrested Wednesday. The Capital Youth Athletics transfer led to a wider search. Investigators found emails tying the payment to his business manager, along with a Draft agreement promising Garrison a paid advisory position after retirement. A separate message instructed Klein to protect the school's investment by controlling footage and attendance records. Sinclair Communications issued a statement calling Charles's arrest a politically motivated misunderstanding. Its board removed him as chief executive 4 hours later. The Sinclair Innovation Center's letters came off the building Friday. Workers unbolted each brushed steel character while students watched from behind temporary fencing. By noon, only pale outlines remained on the brick. I did not attend. Satisfaction did not erase fractures. The first week after the attack was a cycle of swelling, medication, nightmares, and rage. I woke hearing the strike. I flinched when Mom lifted a broom. I could not fasten my bra, wash my hair, or open a carton of milk without help. Revenge stories often skip those details. They show the enemy falling and make the heroine's pain disappear because justice has begun. Mine did not. My mother washed my hair over the kitchen sink while I cried from humiliation. Daniel installed lever handles on our doors. Mrs. Alvarez sent me voice control software and practiced with me after school. I dictated assignments until my throat ached. When classmates brought food, Mom checked every container because neither of us had learned how to stop expecting another attack. What changed was not the pain, it was who carried the shame. In my first life, whispers followed me. Unstable, jealous, attention-seeking, unable to handle pressure. This time, nobody asked what I had done to provoke 3 athletes. They had heard me say "don't touch me," they had heard Tyler describe the payment, they had watched Liam hold me down. Clarity was its own kind of medicine. On Thursday, Dr. Brooks came to our townhouse. She brought a navy envelope, though the foundation had already emailed the result. The panel was unanimous. She said, "Mom made me sit at the kitchen table." Daniel held up his phone to record. With my right hand braced, I could not open the envelope neatly, so Mom slid it with a butter knife and placed the letter in front of me. "Dear Ms. Ellis, it is our privilege to offer you the Harrington Future Engineers Fellowship." The words blurred. "For years of tuition, housing, books, research expenses, a summer placement with one of the Foundation's partner laboratories." The future Ava had tried to beat out of my hands arrived while both hands were still healing. Dr. Brooks waited until I could speak. "Thank you, you earned it. Will the assault affect the announcement? It will affect our security policies. It will not become the story of your engineering." That answer mattered more than she knew. I did not want to be famous for being hit. I wanted to be known for what I built. Dr. Brooks slid a second letter across the table. The panel also recommended Rescue Link for our summer accelerator. Separate funding, separate review, participation is optional. I looked at the number, $50,000 in non-equity prototype funding. Mom sat down hard. Daniel shouted loudly enough to frighten the neighbor's dog. I laughed, and for the first time since waking in my second life, nothing inside the sound hurt. Ava made bail after 6 days. Her parents pledged a McLean property, surrendered her passport, and agreed to electronic monitoring. The judge entered a strict no-contact order covering me, my family, witnesses, and school personnel. Ava was not allowed on Jefferson property. She violated it in less than 48 hours, not directly. People like Ava rarely dirted their own fingers when someone else's were available. An anonymous account posted a 90-second edit of the parking lot footage. It began after Tyler arrived and cut out the first demands. It showed me naming the payment, moving toward the light, and looking at Tyler before he swung. The caption read, "She planned the whole thing. She sacrificed her arms for a scholarship and framed 4 students." Within an hour, identical language appeared on 12 accounts. A local influencer called me the gone girl of STEM. Commenters debated whether my casts were real. Someone posted our home address. In my first life, I would have tried to answer everyone. This time I took screenshots, preserved headers, and sent them to Miriam. Then I said nothing. Detective Patel traced the first upload to a public relations consultant retained by Evelyn Sinclair, Ava's mother. Payment came from a family trust. The consultant turned over messages in which Evelyn wrote, "Ava cannot contact her. You can make the public ask the questions," and emphasized that Ellis wore protective gear. "Normal victims don't arrive prepared." The prosecutor moved to revoke Ava's bond, arguing that she had coordinated indirect contact and intimidation through her mother. Ava's lawyers called the campaign independent parental advocacy. At the hearing, they made a mistake. They played the edited clip. The prosecutor played the unedited recording immediately afterward. The courtroom heard Liam ask for the drive, heard Tyler state the price, heard me say "don't touch me," and heard Ava's instructions repeated in Tyler's own words. Then Detective Patel testified that the phrase, "sacrificed her arms," appeared in a draft message recovered from Ava's sync tablet before the anonymous account used it. The judge looked at Ava over the bench. You appear to believe an intermediary makes an order meaningless. Ava's ankle monitor was removed, handcuffs replaced it, her mother cried out. Charles, appearing by video from detention, closed his eyes. Ava turned toward the gallery and found me in the second row. I had almost stayed home. Miriam said my presence was unnecessary. Mom said healing did not require witnessing every fall. They were right. I came because Ava had spent years in my first life ensuring that I saw every door close. She had sent me articles about her awards from anonymous addresses. She had visited my repair shop once, pretending not to recognize me, and placed a broken RescueLink prototype on the counter. Can you fix it? She had asked, smiling. Now the deputy secured the cuffs and led her toward the side door. She twisted once. Nora, the judge stopped the deputy. Ms. Sinclair, you are under a no-contact order. Ava's mouth closed. That was the sweetest part, not her fear, not the cuffs, the fact that, at last, the law required her to be silent while I remained free to speak. The district scheduled the public integrity hearing 3 weeks before graduation. By then the case had become national news, not because wealthy students had arranged violence. America had no shortage of that story, but because the attack had been designed to look administratively convenient, break the candidate's hands, declare her incapacitated, transfer the nomination, delete the cameras, celebrate resilience. It was cruelty formatted as paperwork. The Fairfax County School Board rented the county government auditorium after registrations exceeded the capacity of its usual meeting room. Students wore blue ribbons for academic integrity. Parents carried signs demanding Garrison's permanent removal. 3 television vans occupied the curb. I had no desire to become a symbol, but symbols were already being made. The choice was whether Ava's family made me into a reckless liar or I told the truth in my own words. So I attended. My left cast had been replaced with a removable brace. The right wrist remained immobilized. Physical therapy had begun, and every morning I practiced touching each fingertip to my thumb. On good days, I could hold a spoon. On bad days, pain ran up both arms. When the weather changed, Mom sat beside me at the witness table. Miriam sat on the other side. Across the aisle, the Sinclair's attorneys occupied 6 seats. Although Ava and Charles remained in custody, the board's independent investigator, a former federal prosecutor named Lillian Price, presented the timeline. Wednesday, 8:15 a.m., Nora Ellis reports a threat and requests preservation of video. Wednesday, 9:02 a.m., Principal Garrison emails Charles Sinclair, she has involved Ruiz, we need to contain the scholarship issue. Thursday, 12:07 p.m., the Harrington Foundation locks the nomination. Friday, 4:31 p.m., Vice Principal Klein receives the Westlot camera map from the security contractor. Friday, 7:58 p.m., Klein disables archival upload. Friday, 8:29 p.m., Tyler Briggs strikes Nora Ellis. Friday, 9:14 p.m., Garrison attempts to substitute Ava Sinclair through administrative credentials. The screen behind Price displayed each source, emails, server logs, recovered footage, bank transfers. There was no dramatic music. It did not need any. Then Price turned to the academic records. Our review identified a pattern extending beyond the Harrington nomination. She said, a new chart appeared. During sophomore year, Ava received credit for a community service program created by another student who withdrew after a disciplinary complaint. During junior year, a teacher changed Ava's AP chemistry grade from a B- to an A after Charles funded new laboratory equipment. The teacher told investigators Garrison instructed her to correct a data entry mistake. Student council expense records showed that $3,000 raised for a food pantry had paid for lighting at Ava's homecoming campaign event. The white suit, the ribbons, the pins, the titles, her whole immaculate life had been propped up by people moving numbers. When she frowned, Price displayed Ava's fellowship submission next. My obsolete RescueLink schematic sat on page 17. There was a rustle across the auditorium. Forensic review determined that this diagram originated in a file authored by Ms. Ellis on January 9. Price said, Ms. Sinclair's document was created March 28. It preserved a component labeling error unique to Ms. Ellis's early draft. The label read C7 where the later schematic read C17. I had corrected it in ink the night I first built the board. Ava had copied the mistake because she did not know enough to see it. Her attorney stood. The criminal court has not adjudicated allegations of intellectual property theft. The board chair replied, this is an administrative proceeding governed by district policy. Counsel, your objection is noted. Price continued, in a recorded interview. Ava claimed that I had stolen the diagram from her. The investigator placed a blank circuit schematic before her and Asked her to explain the power path, Ava refused, calling the request discriminatory because girls are always forced to prove technical competence. Then she threatened to have Price fired. The video played. On screen, Ava leaned toward the camera. Do you know what my family has done for this district? Price answered, at present, yes. Even the board members struggled not to react. When my turn came, the board chair asked whether I wanted a closed session because of my medical condition. No. I took the oath and adjusted the microphone. Counsel for the district asked me to describe how ResQLink developed. I explained the first breadboard, the failed battery test, the routing correction, and the sealed deposit. I showed pages from my lab notebook. My handwriting changed subtly over 14 months. The ink colors, coffee stains, and taped component wrappers told a history no copied PDF could reproduce. Then the Sinclair attorney stood. Ms. Ellis, you anticipated violence Friday night. I anticipated the possibility. You concealed protective guards under your clothing. Yes. You placed cameras. Yes. You arranged for family members to wait nearby. Yes. And you deliberately antagonized Mr. Briggs by mentioning payment. I asked why he was there. You used the word payment before he did. I had evidence Ava had offered him money, but your purpose was to obtain a confession. My purpose was to leave with proof and without permanent injury. He paced once before the witness table. If you believed your school was failing to protect you, why did you not simply stay home? The auditorium was silent. Because staying home would have protected me for one night, I said. It would not have stopped them from accessing my account, destroying my work, changing my nomination, or choosing a different night. I reported the threat. The principal warned me that reporting could damage my candidacy. The vice principal disabled the cameras. The people responsible for protecting students were helping the people threatening one, so you took matters into your own hands. I preserved evidence. Tyler took a weapon into his. The attorney paused. He had wanted me ashamed of being prepared. He wanted carbon guards to transform 3 men with a lacrosse shaft into victims of my calculation. I leaned toward the microphone. If a woman locks her door before someone tries to break in, the lock does not cause the burglary. If she records the door, the camera does not cause it, and if she wears protection because someone threatened to break her bones, that does not make the person swinging the weapon innocent. Applause broke across the room. The chair struck her gavel, but the sound rolled on. The attorney sat down. At the end of the hearing, the board voted unanimously. Richard Garrison was terminated for cause and referred to the state licensing authority. Martin Klein's termination was affirmed. Jefferson's internal investigation would expand to 5 years of grade changes, disciplinary disparities, and donor interventions. The district would create an independent reporting channel outside school leadership and require automatic off-site preservation whenever a student reported a threat. Then came Ava. Her student council office was revoked. Her homecoming queen title was vacated. Every school honor tainted by misconduct was removed from her transcript. Jefferson formally withdrew its endorsements to universities and scholarship programs. Her diploma would be withheld pending completion of disciplinary proceedings. Though state law still protected any credits she had legitimately earned, the board could not erase her education. It could erase the throne built from mine. Workers had left the pale outlines of Sinclair on the Innovation Building until masonry could be repaired. The board voted to rename it for Dr. Katherine Johnson. Mom squeezed my knee under the table. When we walked outside, reporters shouted questions. Nora, do you feel vindicated? Do you forgive the other students? Would you make the same choice again? I stopped at the top of the steps. I feel believed, I said. That is not the same as healed. Then I went home to do my therapy exercises. Universities moved quickly once Jefferson released the findings. Ava's early admission to Georgetown was rescinded for material misrepresentation and serious misconduct. 2 other schools withdrew offers before her attorneys could threaten them. The National Student Leadership Association removed her from its website. A youth philanthropy award demanded repayment of its grant. Liam lost Georgetown. 2. His parents blamed Ava on television until the host played his recorded instruction about my hands. After that, they stopped giving interviews. Tyler's athletic scholarship vanished. Mason and Connor lost their offers. Their coaches issued statements about zero tolerance that mentioned none of the years those programs had spent excusing smaller acts of cruelty. I took no pleasure in their parents' pain. I took considerable pleasure in the boys' astonishment that consequences could outlive a news cycle. Mason and Connor accepted plea agreements first. Each pleaded guilty to conspiracy, unlawful restraint, and assault-related felonies, agreed to testify truthfully, and received a mix of incarceration, suspended time, probation, and restitution. Their active terms were measured in years, not weekends. Neither would step onto a college field that fall. Tyler waited until prosecutors added the photographs of Ava's messages and the medical expert explained the likely consequences if I had not worn guards. A direct strike to the wrist could have destroyed joint surfaces and nerves. A blow to the ulna while Mason pinned me could have produced an open fracture. He pleaded guilty to malicious wounding and conspiracy. At sentencing, his mother asked to speak. She described the boy who carried groceries for neighbors and coached children at a summer clinic. She said one terrible decision should not define his life. The judge asked, which decision? His mother stopped. Taking money. The judge continued, planning the location, bringing the weapon, striking once, raising it a second time, attempting to flee. There had been no single terrible decision, there had been a staircase of choices, and Tyler had climbed every step. When it was my turn, a clerk adjusted the microphone because my left arm still could not lift high enough. I do not want Tyler punished because I hate him, I said. I want a sentence that recognizes what he agreed to turn a human body into. He did not lose control in a fight, he sold the use of his strength to someone who wanted my future. If the guards had failed, I might never work with my hands again. I did not tell the court that I knew exactly what that life felt like. I hope he changes, I finished, but change begins after the truth, not instead of consequences. The judge imposed a lengthy prison term with a suspended portion conditioned on supervised release, restitution, and no contact. Tyler would be well into adulthood before he was free. As deputies led him away, he looked at me. There was no swagger left. Ava said you'd fold, he muttered. You should have asked why she needed 3 men to make me. He lowered his head. Liam pleaded guilty the following week. His agreement required him to testify against Ava, Charles, Garrison, and Klein. He admitted conspiracy, attempted identity theft, unauthorized computer access, attempted theft of my project files, and obstruction. The prosecutor did not give him immunity for the assault. He received an active prison sentence followed by supervised release and a permanent protective order. Before sentencing, he wrote me 27 pages. Miriam delivered the letter in a clear evidence sleeve. You do not have to read it. Did he send it through counsel? No, he gave it to another inmate's girlfriend, who mailed it directly. Then it's a no-contact violation, likely. I looked at my name on the envelope. He had written it in the careful block letters he used on debate ballots. In my first life, I spent years imagining what apology could make sense of his betrayal. I wanted him to confess that he loved me, that Ava had controlled him, that he had panicked, that the boy I trusted still existed somewhere beneath the man who held me down. Now the explanation was inside an envelope. I did not open it. Give it to Detective Patel. Miriam smiled slightly. You are sure? He has already taken enough of my time. The violation cost Liam privileges and strengthened the court's finding that he still believed his need to speak outweighed my right to be left alone. His 27 pages became evidence without becoming part of me. That was a better use for them. Ava refused every plea offer. Her attorneys urged her to accept responsibility for conspiracy and solicitation in exchange for dismissal of several secondary counts. Charles urged her to protect the family. Evelyn urged her to blame Charles. Liam's testimony placed her at the center. Tyler's phone held her words. The payment trail began in an entity her family controlled and ended in the hand that struck me. Still, Ava insisted on trial. She believed a jury was another audience. Jury selection began in October, 6 months after the attack. By then I was a freshman at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, studying electrical and computer engineering. The Harrington Fellowship covered a small accessible apartment near campus while my therapy continued. RescueLink had completed 2 controlled emergency network trials. My left arm had regained most range of motion. My right wrist still ached after long lab sessions, but I could solder again. I returned to Virginia under subpoena. The courthouse looked smaller than it had during hearings, maybe because I no longer entered it carrying my entire future. Ava sat at the defense table in navy, hair pulled into a low knot. Without the ribbons and staged light, she could have been any young woman waiting for strangers to decide what her choices meant. She watched the jury constantly. The prosecution opened with the money, the defense opened with me. Their theory was not that the attack had not happened, it was that I had manipulated unstable boys, staged the severity of my injuries, and converted ordinary academic rivalry into a criminal case to eliminate Ava. This case is about a gifted young woman who understood narrative, her lawyer told the jury. Nora Ellis did not merely predict a confrontation, she produced one. He showed a photograph of my carbon guards. She put on armor, placed cameras, summoned an audience, and walked onto a stage. The prosecutor waited, then she showed the lacrosse shaft, and the defendant sent the weapon. For 2 weeks, evidence replaced adjectives, Dr. Brooks explained the nomination lock in Garrison's unauthorized attempts. A digital forensics examiner traced my old credentials from Liam's laptop to the attempted portal access. The athletic nonprofit's accountant described Charles's transfer. Mason and Connor testified about planning meetings in Ava's pool house. Tyler admitted the price and the instructions. Liam was the most damaging witness. He entered in jail clothing because the judge refused a request to disguise his custody status. He described Ava approaching him in January, flattering his ambition, offering help with Georgetown, and asking for access to my research. He admitted enjoying the attention. He admitted giving her my password. He admitted lying to me every day for months. Did the defendant tell you what would happen in the West Lot? The prosecutor asked. Yes. What did she say? Liam looked at me once. I gave him nothing. She said Tyler would make sure Nora could not write or type. She said I had to hold her if she fought. And did you? Yes. On cross-examination, Ava's lawyer tore into him. You saved private messages in a folder called insurance because you planned to betray Ms. Sinclair. If caught, correct? Yes. You lied to Nora Ellis. Yes. You lied to police. At first, you are testifying under an agreement that may benefit you. Yes. So the jury should trust a self-interested liar. Liam's face changed. No, he said, they should trust the recordings I made because I was a self-interested liar. Even Ava turned to look at him. The recordings played next. Her laughter filled the courtroom. No head, no knees. She should have withdrawn. Keep her against the car. The jury heard Charles instruct them to avoid a sympathetic headline. They heard Garrison accept the order to use his credentials. They heard Ava complain that $10,000 was absurd for one skinny girl, before agreeing because Tyler was too stupid to negotiate later. She did not look at the jury after that. I testified on the 8th day. The prosecutor began with Rescue Link. She had me explain the project before the threat before the meeting, and the meeting before the attack. The order mattered. It reminded the jury that my life existed before Ava decided to reorganize it. When the state played the parking lot video, I watched myself enter the white circle beneath the lamp, had seen the clip dozens of times in preparation. I knew the exact second Tyler swung. My body did not care. Sweat cooled along my spine. The courtroom walls narrowed. My left fingers tingled with phantom numbness. The judge noticed. Would you like a recess, Ms. Ellis? In my first life, I mistook endurance for never pausing. Yes, Your Honor. 5 minutes, please. I drank water in the witness room. Mom pressed her palm between my shoulder blades. You don't owe them a performance, she said. I know. When I returned, the prosecutor skipped the impact and resumed with the arrests. On cross-examination, Ava's lawyer placed a printed copy of my dead man message on the screen. You prepared this before going to the lot? Yes. It says, if this sends, Liam Cole and Tyler Briggs may be attempting to injure me on behalf of Ava Sinclair. You named my client before any crime occurred. I named the person whose plan I believed they were carrying out. Based on what? Unauthorized access to my work, Liam's messages, Tyler's search for camera blind spots, the threat demanding withdrawal, and information I received indicating Ava had offered payment, information you have never identified publicly. I had told prosecutors the truth about the anonymous source available in this life, a frightened teammate who had overheard Tyler boasting. The boy's identity was protected under a court order because he was a minor. Ava's attorney knew that. I identified it to investigators. But you wanted evidence stronger than a schoolboy's rumor. Yes, so you went to manufacture it. No, you knew which words would anger Tyler. I knew the truth would make him nervous. You knew cameras were watching. Yes, you knew police were close. I hoped they were. You wore rigid guards. Yes, he lifted one from the evidence table. The split edge had been preserved, and you claim you did not intend to be struck. I wore a seatbelt on the drive to court today. I did not intend to crash. A juror glanced down to hide a smile. The lawyer set the guard aside. Ms. Ellis, isn't it true that eliminating Ava Sinclair from the fellowship competition benefited you? Ava was not the registered candidate. She might have become one if you withdrew, which is why she tried to force me. Please answer only the question asked, then ask one that does not contain her defense inside it. The judge said. Ms. Ellis, sorry, Your Honor, I was not. The attorney approached the witness box. You hated Ava. By Friday night, I feared her. You envied her family's resources. I envied anyone whose school protected them. You wanted to see her punished. There it was, the question he believed would expose me. I could have said no. A gentle heroine would have said she wanted only truth. That prison brought her no pleasure. That forgiveness had already washed her clean. I was not gentle. and I had not been washed clean. Yes, I said. The courtroom went still. Her lawyer turned toward the jury. You wanted revenge, I wanted consequences. Is there a difference? Revenge is what Ava ordered in the parking lot because she thought my success diminished her. Consequences are what happen in a courtroom after evidence is tested, rights are protected, and a jury decides. A convenient distinction, a necessary one. I did not break her arms. I did not plant messages on her phone. I did not move money through her father's nonprofit. I preserved what she chose to do. He returned to the table without another question. The prosecution rested the next afternoon. Ava chose to testify. Her lawyers advised against it. We learned that later, but Ava had spent her life believing that if she could reach the microphone, reality would adjust. She told the jury Liam was obsessed with her. Tyler had demanded money to frighten me, and she had played along because she feared him. Her references to my arms were jokes taken out of context. The old RescueLink schematic had appeared anonymously in her email, and she assumed it was open source. Her father's payments supported youth athletics. Garrison's portal attempts were an overzealous effort to preserve Jefferson's opportunity. Each lie stood alone for seconds before the prosecutor connected it to another piece of evidence. You feared Tyler, yes, why? Did you write, he's too stupid to negotiate later? I was pretending confidence. Why did you invite him to your pool house 3 times? Liam arranged those meetings. Why does your gate log show you admitted him personally? I don't remember. Why did you send the precise camera map? I didn't. The prosecutor enlarged the message. It came from Ava's account. Someone used my phone. Your phone's facial recognition opened the attachment. Those systems make mistakes, so do people. The prosecutor said, repeatedly, in your case. The judge sustained the defense objection, but the sentence had already reached the jury. Then came the question Ava could not survive. Sinclair, if this was all Mr. Cole's plan, why did you call Nora Ellis from the hospital and tell her not to take the exam? I was concerned. Why did you whisper, Garrison is trying again, after you believed the call had ended? Ava's face went pale. The voicemail played. Her voice filled the room. No. Garrison is trying again. I meant trying to help. Help whom? Silence. Sinclair, Jefferson. By removing its registered candidate while she was in the emergency room, Ava looked toward her mother. Evelyn did what she had always done when her daughter needed rescue. She began to rise. The judge ordered her to sit. No one rescued Ava. For the first time in her life, she had to remain inside the answer she had made. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I spent the time in a coffee shop across from the courthouse with Mom, Daniel, Miriam, and Officer Ruiz. Nobody discussed the verdict. Daniel complained about Pittsburgh winters. Mom revised a legal aid filing. Ruiz showed me photographs of the puppy she had just adopted. At 4:37 p.m., the clerk called us back. Ava stood for the verdict: guilty of solicitation to commit malicious wounding, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of attempted computer fraud and identity-related offenses, guilty of witness intimidation, guilty of evidence tampering. Conspiracy. One by one, the counts closed around her. The jury acquitted her of a narrow theft charge involving the physical drive because Liam had seized the backpack before she ever possessed it. The acquittal mattered. It proved the process was not a machine built to crush her. The jurors had separated what prosecutors proved from what they did not. That made every guilty verdict heavier. Ava gripped the defense table. No, she said. The judge ordered her remanded. She began speaking faster. They hate me because of my father. She admitted she wanted revenge. She planned it. She knew. Deputies approached. Sinclair, the judge warned. She pointed at me. You ruined my life. I stood before anyone could stop me. I wasn't holding the stick. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. The deputies led her away. Sentencing took place 2 months later. Victim impact letters filled a binder. Mine, Mom's, students whose work Ava had taken, teachers pressured to change grades, the charity that never received its food pantry funds. Ava spoke last. She apologized to anyone who felt harmed by choices made in a culture of unbearable competition. She never said my name. She blamed expectations, her father, school politics, Liam's obsession, and online harassment. She described 6 months in jail as a punishment beyond anything a girl my age should experience. The judge listened. The court has considered your age, she said. It has also considered the age of the victim whose bones you ordered broken. Ava's composure fractured. The sentence included a substantial active prison term followed by suspended time, supervised probation, restitution, and permanent no-contact provisions. Because several offenses arose from one criminal scheme, some terms ran concurrently. Because intimidation continued after arrest, others did not. she would spend most of her 20s in state custody. The exact number mattered less to me than the judge's final finding. This was not youthful rivalry. It was an organized effort to purchase violence and institutional power in order to steal another person's earned future. That sentence became the headline. Charles Sinclair went to trial separately. His defense claimed he believed Tyler was being paid for security and that his recorded comments concerned crisis communications. Garrison testified against him after accepting a plea. Klein produced the advisory position emails. A jury convicted Charles of bribery, conspiracy, obstruction, and financial offenses tied to the nonprofit. He received prison time, financial penalties, and disqualification from directing charitable organizations. Evelyn pleaded guilty to witness intimidation for the anonymous campaign. She avoided a long active sentence but received home detention, probation, community service, and a court order barring her from contacting me or coordinating public statements about me. Civil discovery revealed that she had spent more attacking my credibility than the family had promised Tyler for my bones. Sinclair Communications settled shareholder claims and sold the McLean house used to secure Ava's bond. Capital Youth Athletics dissolved. Its remaining funds were transferred under court supervision to legitimate youth programs. Garrison lost his education license and served time for obstruction, computer-related misconduct, and bribery conspiracy. Klein received a reduced sentence for cooperation but never worked in a school again. The adults who believed they could hide behind teenagers discovered that conspiracy did not become less criminal when conducted through a booster club and a principal's login. There was also a civil case Miriam filed against the attackers, the Sinclairs, the school administrators in their individual capacities, and the entities that had facilitated the payments. The district negotiated a settlement without admitting every allegation. It funded my ongoing medical care, trauma therapy, and accessibility needs, and established an independently administered student safety program. I did not become magically wealthy. Legal fees existed, medical liens existed, appeals existed. Some defendants had fewer assets than their clothes suggested, but Mom did not sell the townhouse. That fact made me cry harder than the fellowship letter. In my first life, she packed our kitchen into grocery boxes because I could not work and insurance denied the third surgery. She apologized to me while carrying the last box out. This time, on the day the settlement finalized, I asked her to video call from the kitchen. "Show me the blue cabinet," I said. "Why, please?" She turned the phone toward the cabinet she had painted when I was 12. "Still there, still ours." Some victories are banners and verdicts, some are a cheap blue cabinet remaining exactly where grief once took it away. Recovery refused to follow the courtroom calendar. By spring of my freshman year, the left fracture had healed, the right wrist remained temperamental, my grip strength reached 86% of baseline, then stalled. A surgeon told me that excellent outcome did not mean identical outcome. I hated that sentence. I hated therapy putty, resistance bands, and the tiny metal pegs I moved across a board while a clock measured me. I hated asking lab partners to tighten screws. I hated the hot pulse in my wrist after an hour at a keyboard, but hatred could be used. I joined a rehabilitation engineering lab studying low-cost upper limb assistive devices. The first prototype I contributed to was a modular brace with pressure sensors that warned users when repetitive motion approached a dangerous load. It was ugly, overwired, and held together with more optimism than good design. It worked. Professor Amina Shah watched me test it. "You understand the user problem unusually well," she said. I had an expensive internship. She did not laugh until she saw that I was joking. RescueLink developed beside that work. The Harrington Accelerator paired me with emergency managers, community organizers, and radio engineers who punctured every heroic fantasy I had about disaster. Technology, devices did not save communities by themselves. Maintenance plans mattered, language access mattered, who controlled the network mattered. A brilliant object locked in a municipal warehouse was less useful than an imperfect one residents knew how to operate. We redesigned the nodes with local partners instead of for them. During my sophomore summer, a coastal North Carolina county tested RescueLink during a hurricane exercise. 36 nodes carried simulated emergency messages after the cellular network was intentionally disabled. 1 overheated, 2 were placed where floodwater would have reached them. A Spanish-language interface failed to display a critical accent correctly. The exercise was not elegant, it was real. We fixed what failed. The following year, when a storm knocked out service in 2 rural communities, emergency managers deployed 12 nodes. A resident used one to request insulin refrigeration for her father. A volunteer fire station coordinated wellness checks through another. The project did not make me famous overnight. It did something better. It became useful. Dr. Brooks sent me a photograph of the first message log with one line, "This is why the fellowship chose you." I printed it and taped it above my workbench. Under it, I kept the cracked carbon guard, not as a trophy, as a design problem. Protection had turned catastrophic injuries into recoverable ones. But the guards were too bulky for daily use and did not protect the wrist well enough. My rehabilitation lab began testing a lighter composite structure that could be worn beneath ordinary clothing by people at risk of re-injury. Pain became data, not all of it. Some pain remained only pain. I stopped trying to force every wound into a lesson. That, too, was recovery. 3 years after the trial, Jefferson Academy invited me to speak at the opening of the Katherine Johnson Center for Engineering and Ethics. I almost declined. The building had once carried the Sinclair name. My blood had dried on asphalt behind it. Even in photographs, the atrium made my shoulders tense. Then I read the program. The center would house free evening engineering workshops, an independent academic integrity office, and a student legal resource clinic funded by the district's settlement. Officer Ruiz had helped design its threat reporting protocol. Dr. Brooks would speak about fair access to competitions. The first student exhibit featured communication devices built by girls from 3 Title I middle schools. I went. Mom met me at Dulles wearing the blue coat she reserved for important days. Daniel brought flowers and complained that my flight was late. Miriam arrived directly from court. Mrs. Alvarez, my exam scribe, brought the yellow highlighter I had left in the testing room years earlier. "I thought you might need it," she said. My hands were strong enough to take it. The West lot had changed. Cameras covered every entrance, backed up outside the school network. An emergency call pillar stood beneath the lamp where Tyler had struck me. The maintenance building was gone. I walked there alone before the ceremony. For a while, I listened to traffic beyond the trees. In my first life, this place was the border between who I had been and who pain forced me to become. In my second, it was the place 4 people revealed themselves and failed to decide me. I expected triumph. What I felt was distance. That was better. Inside the center, a plaque listed the students and community members who had advised on the new programs. My name appeared in the same size as everyone else's. No building had been named for me. I had specifically refused. I did not want another school teaching children that money or suffering could purchase monuments. At the podium, I looked across rows of students. Some knew every detail of the case. Others had been in elementary school when it happened. To them, Ava Sinclair was not a queen or a cautionary celebrity. She was a name in an ethics module about coercion, donor influence, and evidence preservation. People often ask whether I would walk into that parking lot again. I began. The room quieted. The honest answer is no. I would insist that adults create a safe, supervised intervention before anyone swung a weapon. Preparation saved me from worse harm, but survival does not turn danger into wisdom. Officer Ruiz nodded from the front row. I do not say that because the people who attacked me were less responsible. They made their choices. I say it because courage is not measured by how much damage you are willing to absorb. I raised my hands. The scars were small now. These hands did not earn the fellowship by being broken. They earned it by building something. The most important protection this school can offer is not a camera or a policy. It is a culture where a student who reports danger is treated as someone to defend, not a problem to manage. After the speech, a freshman waited while everyone else moved toward the exhibits. She held a notebook against her chest. "Can I ask something weird? Those are usually the best questions. When all those people said you planned it, how did you not start believing them?" I considered giving her a polished answer. "Sometimes I did," I said. "Trauma makes you retry every decision as if pain proves you were guilty of causing it." I had evidence, a good therapist, and people who reminded me that being prepared for violence is not the same as choosing violence. "Did you forgive Ava?" "No." Her eyes widened. "Forgiveness is personal," I continued. "Some people need it to be free." I needed boundaries, truth, and a life that did not revolve around her. I hope she becomes someone who will never do this again. She can do that work without access to me. The girl smiled slowly. "That's a better answer. It's the true one." She showed me her notebook. Inside was a sketch for a low-cost device that detected heat illness in outdoor athletes. "Would you look at my circuit?" I did. The first label was wrong. I gave her back the yellow highlighter. In the 5th year of my second life, RescueLink became a public benefit company. We licensed the basic emergency protocol at no cost to community and nonprofit networks. Municipal contracts paid for deployment, training, and continued development. The company was modest, stubborn, and profitable enough to keep its promises. Mom served on no board and signed no legal documents for us. She said one entrepreneur in the family was sufficient punishment. She did, however, inspect every lease and circle dangerous clauses in red. Daniel kept the first production node in his ambulance station even though its coverage there was unnecessary. Marketing, he said, you don't sell anything. Morale, then, my right wrist never returned to 100%. I wore the brace our lab designed during long work sessions. Some mornings, cold weather woke the old ache before my alarm. It no longer frightened me. Pain was a signal, not a prophecy. I heard about the others only when the law required it. Mason and Connor completed their active sentences and entered supervised release. One enrolled in a community college program after writing an accountability statement the court accepted as sincere. The other violated probation and returned to custody. Tyler lost an early release opportunity after fighting in prison, then began a restorative justice course 2 years later. Whether the change lasted was his responsibility. Liam applied for sentence modification and was denied, his admissions and disciplinary record made any future law career unlikely. He sent no more letters. Charles's company survived without him. Evelyn moved to another state after probation ended. Garrison appealed his license revocation twice and lost. Ava remained incarcerated. At a review hearing, she finally used my name in an apology. The transcript reached Miriam, who asked whether I wanted it. Does the court need a response? No, then I don't. I did not need to know whether prison had taught her remorse or merely better vocabulary. One April morning, exactly 10 years after I woke over the calculus workbook, I stood in a community center outside Wilmington, North Carolina, while teenagers assembled RescueLink nodes for hurricane season. A girl with silver braids held up a circuit board. Ms. Ellis, this component won't sit flat. I crossed the room, my hands moved without hesitation. Brace the board, heat the joint, lift the solder, reseat the lead, try now. The status light turned green. Around us, 30 nodes blinked. Awake one by one, they found each other, traded keys, and formed a network where no network had existed. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder I had forgotten to delete. Harrington exam anniversary. For years the date had divided my life into before and after. I looked at the screen, then removed the recurring event. Bad news, the girl asked. Old news. I put the phone away. In my first life, Ava took my work, my hands, and 7 years. At the end, she took my life because she believed theft became ownership if no witness survived. Rebirth did not give me cleaner enemies or painless victory, it gave me information. I used it to lock every door they had once opened, to place truth where money could not delete it, and to make their choices visible before they could rename them accidents. They tried to turn my broken arms into an empty chair. Instead, my scribe recorded every answer. They tried to turn a donor's money into authority. Instead, the payment became an exhibit. They tried to make the West Lot a blind spot. Instead, it became the clearest place in their lives. The girl beside me connected the final solar panel. Sunlight crossed the workshop floor and touched the rows of waiting nodes. What happens if one fails? She asked. I smiled. The others route around it. That was the heart of RescueLink. No single broken point could command the whole system. Damage was expected, isolated, and survived. It was also the heart of the life I had built. I had once believed revenge meant returning every ounce of pain. I was wrong. Revenge was refusing to carry the consequences of crimes committed against me. Justice was returning those consequences, carefully labeled, to the people who chose them. And rebirth was the moment I understood that my future had never lived in Ava's hands, it lived in mine. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.